On this episode of the Scouting Fire, today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the history of the Order of the Arrow. Greetings, fellow Weber maniacs, and welcome to the Scouting Fire, where today we're going to be talking about the history of the Order of the Arrow. So, let me ask you this. Are you involved in the Order of the Arrow? If so, do you know a little bit about its history? But if I asked you that same question, if you were in the OA, if you were involved in the OA one way or another, do you know its history or not? So this is a question that can be phrased for two different routes. One of which being for the people that are involved in the Order of the Arrow, or OA as it's often called, but also it is also for those that are new to scouting and haven't heard about the Order of the Arrow, whatever it, and I may think it's like a secret cult, but it is not a secret cult. It is the National Honor Society for the Boy Scouts of America. And today I'm going to explain to you the history of the Order of the Arrow. The Order of the Arrow was founded in July of 1915 by two individuals, Dr. E. Erner Goodman and Colonel Carrol A. Edson. And you might be thinking to yourself, who is Dr. E. Erner Goodman and Carrol A. Edson? Well, they were the founders of the Order of the Arrow, and they were heavily involved in scouting, especially E. Erner Goodman, who was a member on the camp staff for the Philadelphia Council campground Treasure Island Scout Reservation, which I might add is actually inspired, which the name is alluded to the 1883 novel Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. But back to the point at hand. The Order of the Arrow is often referred to as the Boy Scouts of America, or Scouts BSA's National Honor Society. It is well known for the ideas of Wimoktadink, Wingalausik, Witahemaway, the three W's, which mean, in the tongue of the Lenape, Brotherhood of Cheerful Service. Although that you don't see my sash on me right now, I am a member, even though that I have a lodge flap here. My current status in the Order of the Arrow is Brotherhood. It's more on the honors about it. Just like the National Honor Society that is typically founded in the high schools, the high school systems, there's always degrees or levels, or as we call it in the Order of the Arrow, honors. The first honor that you can get in the Order of the Arrow is your ordeal. In order to do it, you have to be an eligible candidate for the OA. But how do you do that? Well, you have to be a first-class scout, and you have to camp 15 nights. 7 of them have to be a week-long summer camp, which is what SIPO Lodge has done. But you also have to show good camp spirit and service. And I can tell you a little bit about how I got called out. This is a story that I rarely talk about, but I was in 2 troops before getting into the OA. The first troop I was with, I've been for most of my life, Troop 35. And the way that they did it, I don't want to say it was like a stylized popularity contest in which they specifically say in like scripts and and in the videos that are going to be provided in the description down below, they are going to say that it's not supposed to be a popularity contest. Think of it as who is there to help the person in need. After the election, which is when that's the time you determine who is going to be eligible. Say, for example, hypothetically, it's John Doe or Jane Smith. Think of it like that. Those two are the eligible candidates for their troops. or for their units. And then come the summer camp, which is a tradition that we do at the Buckeye Council, we do our call-outs at summer camp. Typically on Wednesdays, it is the OA day, which is where you learn a little bit about the OA history, which I kind of briefly mentioned, as well as getting the vigil call-out, let alone the actual call-out ceremony in which people that have been elected can finally be announced to the public at camp. The story that I have to share is that I was called out on July 3rd, 2019, and it was by my father, who is a camp staff alum of Buckeye Council, as well as an Eagle Scout, and he is a vigil member in the Order of the Arrow. I went through my ordeal and my Brotherhood in August of 2019 and 2021. The reason why the long gap was because of COVID. I could have done it, but I didn't know that we would have one for fall, for the spring ordeal or spring fellowship and the activities that are done for Sippo Lodge, which is the lodge that I'm a part of. Once you get called out, then you have to go through an ordeal, which is a process that is pretty much tedious, but it is well worth it. There are 4 principles you have to be aware of. And these 4 principles of the pre-ordeal play out in the ordeal as well as in the Brotherhood. The first is to pretty much keep the strictest pledge of silence. This is the challenge that is given to you by Meteu, who is the medicine man. To keep the strictest pledge of silence is that if you utter a word, you might find yourself, it is a tumultuous thing. So it's like sealing a promise. If you break it, who knows what the consequences may be. The next challenge in the pre-ordeal is to pretty much eat nothing but the scant food provided to you. This is supposed to be one of the most worst parts, because depending on how the ordeal is worked out, the food varies, but you're supposed to be given a little food, like, for example, a hard-boiled egg and oatmeal, just to name a few. The next pre-ordeal challenge is to work in arduous labor. To work in arduous labor means work without reason. In a painful labor because of the dangers ahead. You may not know what it is, but once you do the arduous labor, you become the seeds that are explained are well worth it in the end. And then finally, there is the challenge from Kitchkinet, which is the guide and the OA, and that is to sleep the night alone, separate from others. This is a little bit daunting to some people, and there is a reason for it. Most people are afraid that they may or may not communicate well or sleep well if they're not with friends or companions. And that's one of the things that you have to be cautious about. And then we have and this is something that my lodge has done in years past, and it's a tradition that has been done ever since, and that is the giving of a deer toe before the pre-ordeal. And the way that this works is that the ordeal candidates, the called out candidates, have checked in at camp, and the way that this works is that Meteu and Kitchkinet, Meteu and Nutiket, who are one of the key four principles, two of the four principles, go out and gives each individual a deer toe. And there's a speech that is given to the candidates along the lines of, "You have just received a deer toe, a token of our largest totem, the stag. Be you silent as you work, like the deer who moves silently in the forest." Something along those lines. After you go through the Order of the Arrow, after you go through your ordeal, you can go through your Brotherhood, which will be in the next video. But the only things that you need to know about the history of the Order of the Arrow are that there are 3 honors. They are the Ordeal, Brotherhood, and Vigil. So let me know what you think in the comment sections below about starting off with the Order of the Arrow as a heavy topic. I mean, it is a well worth society, but it is not supposed to be the most front center thing in your scouting career. It's a side step, but it is part of the journey in scouting. And this could apply to both the youth and adults. The requirements that I gave at the beginning, they are for the youth. The adults vary. You still have to camp 15 nights, but you also have to get recommendations from other adults, and they get submitted to the Supreme Chief of the Fire, who is in reality the title given to the Scout Executive of the Council. Hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, so that way you get notified of when the Scouting Fire gets uploaded. Otherwise, this is Whoever Mania signing off, and I will see you by the Scouting Fire.